It is 7 o'clock on Tuesday, June 25th, 2019. I am opening the administrative board meeting. I am going to take roll call. Trustees Chris Samples,
Here.
John Talbot,
Here.
William Luxinger,
Here.
Dina Simpson is absent, Jen Christensen,
Here.
Jared Doan,
Here.
President Rick Worm is absent, Treasurer Brenda Ondebany,
Here.
Clerk Sandy Miles, I am here, Attorney David Silverman.
Here.
We do not have an engineer. Public Works Supervisor Brett Fergie
Here.
and Park Supervisor Kenny Lehner.
Here.
I will take a motion to appoint a fellow trustee, President Pro Tem.
Motion to appoint William Luxinger, Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
John makes a motion to appoint William Luxinger, Mayor Pro Tem. Jen seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? William, your meeting.
For clarification, William will be voting as a trustee this evening.
On the agenda is the approval for the consent agenda by omnibus vote. At this time, does any board member wish to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion?
Would you like me to read them first?
Sure.
All right. Our consent agenda items tonight. Item number 1 is May 21st, 2019 special meeting of the village board minutes. Number 2 is May 28th, 2019 administrative board minutes. Number 3 is the bills payable warrant list dated June 25th, 2019. Number 4 is ordinance number 19-09, an ordinance regarding retail sale or delivery of alcoholic liquors. Number 5 is resolution number 19-37, resolution approving and authorizing execution of water main construction agreement by and between the Village of Davis Junction and Scandia, Inc. Number 6 is ordinance number 19-10, ordinance regarding traffic and vehicles for the Village Code, Article 42. Number 7 is resolution number 19-38, resolution approving and authorizing traffic control devices for the Village Code, Article 42. And number 8 on the consent agenda is resolution number 19-39, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of proposal from American Seal Coating for repair of basketball courts at the community park.
Now, at this time, does any board member wish to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to place agenda items 1 through 8 inclusively as consent agenda items. Further, I move that all items be considered together as the consent agenda.
Second.
Chris places items 1 through 8 inclusively as the consent agenda items, seconded by, is that Jared?
Jared.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, take roll call.
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dina is absent. Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Megan? I move to adopt items 1 through 8 inclusively on the consent agenda in a single group pursuant to the omnibus vote procedures specified in the Illinois Municipal Code.
Second.
Chris made a motion to adopt the consent agenda items 1 through 8 inclusively as the consent agenda, seconded by Jared. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, take roll call.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dina is absent. Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
No items from the removed agenda. Moving on to the reports from the president. Discussion and possible approval of resolution 19-40, resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement between the Village of Davis Junction and Illinois Fiber Resources Group. So my understanding of this resolution is that this is the I-fiber that connects Village Hall to the
Internet?
it's not the internet, it's the I-fiber that gets us out of the building, and then we have another agreement with NIU that gets us to the internet. This is for a one-line fiber. It's a renewal of an agreement we already have. It was in the packet for review, if anybody has any questions on it. If not, somebody would like to make a motion on it.
I'll make a motion of approval of the resolution number 19-40, resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement between the Village of Davis Junction and Illinois Fiber Resources Group.
Second.
Jen made a motion to approve Resolution 19-40, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement between the Village of Davis Junction and Illinois Fiber Resources Group, and was seconded by Chris. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, clerk take a roll call.
John?
Yes.
Dina's absent. Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes?
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Moving on to the clerk.
Just a reminder make a time with me to review closed session minutes. I've got about half of you done already and need to meet with the other half of you so we can get that finalized. Our suggested requirement was today's meeting, which didn't happen, so we need to really get that done as soon as possible and hopefully have it ready for the regular meeting. So those of you who have not met with me, please schedule your time as soon as possible. We did receive a letter from Ogle County Solid Waste Management on the electronic recycling. We did receive our grant funds for $332.68, which was slightly less than half. I underestimated our costs, and so next year I will overestimate because they can only grant us what I estimated our costs would be in January. But more importantly, I did want to read this one portion from the director down there, who says, on behalf of the Ogle County Solid Waste Management Department, he'd like to thank you for organizing the event, and the people who helped should also be commended for their time and efforts. Without the help of the cleanup effort, would not have been so successful. Thanks to all of you for helping beautify Ogle County. I did share this with Brett so that he could share it with his employees as well as a thank you to them. So that was nice because it took 2 days worth of hauling to get all of the electronic recycling down there.
Thank you for all parties involved.
Just for clarification, they pay for half.
So we have to apply for a grant. I have to apply in January because the funds are used, and so I had to estimate what our half would be, and so
What?
I estimated our half would be $332. Unfortunately, we spent slightly more than that. Half would have been closer to $400.
It was a good turnout.
It was a very good turnout, and so, however, they've only allocated that much to us, so I did max out the amount. This is the first year that we had applied for the grant, though, so I'm excited that we received any funds, and I'm hopeful to do it again next year.
It's the first year we applied for this format.
Yep, for the grant.
Yeah,
For this-
we've
for
used
this-
the grant before,
Uh,
recycling bins in the
Yeah,
park and stuff like
yeah,
that,
for
but it's been
other-
many years.
this is the first time that we've used it for an electronic recycling
Yes.
event. I tried 2 years ago, but I was too late. And then Fergie and I attended, or Brett and I attended the Monroe Center meeting last night. We went, extended an olive branch for them to come and work with us. They may be in touch with us regarding an intergovernmental agreement. I did mention that again, since Rick had mentioned it at their last meeting, that we'd like to have the same working relationship with them that we have with Stillman Valley. So we're hopeful we'll hear from them, and I think we left that as Steve, their village president, to get in touch with Rick, so
Okay. Anything further?
that's all I got.
Treasurer Brenda?
I have nothing tonight.
Nothing. Anything from the village attorney?
Yeah, so today was a momentous day in Illinois history, depending on your point of view. Governor Pritzker, with a cast of thousands, signed the recreational marijuana legislation today. And now what happens is about a 6-month process of drawing up the state regulations for the various state agencies that will have regulatory control over the sale of recreational marijuana in the state. However, for the village, you should probably start thinking about how you want to regulate this, including whether you want to opt out of the ability to have such facilities within your jurisdiction. Keep in mind, you can't prohibit medical facilities, but you can prohibit recreational facilities. And you have authority in the legislation to regulate at two levels, and we would certainly advise that you do so, at a licensing level and at a zoning level. And while you do have fairly extensive zoning powers, for instance, you can and should make these special uses in whatever district if you decide you want them. You can't establish regulations more extensive than the statute. For instance, the statute sets a limit that such uses can't be closer than 1,500 feet apart. So you can't have two recreational marijuana places 1,500 apart. There's other distance requirements that are established in the Act. You can't go less than that. You can go more than that, but you can't go less than that. So those are some things you need to think about. There are tax benefits. After January 1st, 2020, both home rule and non-home rule municipalities can adopt ordinance to impose a local tax on the operation of a recreational marijuana facility. The rate of the tax cannot exceed 3% of that facility's gross receipts from the sale of non-medical marijuana. If imposed, the tax must be imposed in 0.25% increments, which is pretty typical for any taxes, sales taxes in the state. There's a bunch of other aspects of it. We did send out a client alert that you guys did receive, and happily, Dan Bolin, who you should all be familiar with, is actually a recognized expert on medical and recreational marijuana. Not by consumption, but by the laws surrounding it. He went to college with one of the chief sponsors of the legislation, which is about 700 pages. Illinois, unlike the other 10 states that have legal marijuana, decided to do it through the statutory legislative process. The other 10 states did it through the constitutional amendment process, establishing a constitutional right to consume marijuana. So Illinois is a little bit different, but the advantage to doing it statutorily like Illinois did is that pretty much everything's laid out. Whereas when you do it in a constitutional framework, you have to take a lot of time to build the laws around the constitutional provisions as well as the regulations for these various state agencies that would have regulatory control. Illinois did away with that at the front end. As said, we still do have a regulatory process that we'll have to go through, but everything becomes legal on January 1st of next year. So start thinking about how you want to deal with this. That will trigger a public hearing at your Planning and Zoning Commission because it will result in text amendments, but we would, for the zoning piece. On the licensing side, that'll happen here and does not require a public hearing.
So I just want to make sure we're narrowing this down. So we need to discuss whether or not they want to allow it, and if they do allow it, what type of zoning they want to put on that. Are there any restrictions in the new law on the type of zoning area or? No. Okay. And then.
Go ahead, sorry.
No. I'm just speaking broadly at this point, so I know what questions we need to come back with. And then I know Dan mentioned the employee handbook, but just so everybody's aware, Brenda and Margaret have already been talking about that. Margaret being our employment attorney. They've already been all over that. And then they need to decide if they're going to tax it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And I believe, I don't know if it was at the seminar Brenda and I attended with the Department of Revenue, they did say something about when you implement that tax will depend upon when it actually starts going into effect, based upon how they tax in quarters. Yeah. Right.
And the tax would be associated with the licensing provisions you put together.
Okay.
So, again, pending on your perspective, obviously this is a controversial issue in communities across the state. Some states are ready to embrace it. I think Evanston is already ahead of the game, for instance, on establishing their regulations. But I suspect that there'll be a diversity of approaches to how this is dealt with.
I think regardless of how we feel, I'll put it on the agenda so that the board can make decisions yes or no, and so that I have some definitive answers on what to move forward with on paperwork with Dan and David.
Are we talking just about selling? You're not talking about consumption on the premises.
Well, you can actually have lounges, marijuana lounges.
Yeah.
It's not a sales tax that goes,
It is a sales tax, but it's specific to marijuana. So you're not gonna find it in the municipal retailer's tax.
so that would be, in addition to whatever the state's charging, because
Yeah.
I saw a list of like what the state is charging depending on the amount or the strength
Yep,
of.
that's right.
Last question is, since it is still federally illegal, does that not cause some,
It is still, you are absolutely right, it is still federally, illegal. It is, Schedule I controlled substance under federal law dating from the 1930s. It creates an issue more on banking. In other words, any federally insured banking establishment can't take deposits from marijuana businesses. And this has been an issue that's been dealt with in the other 10 states that have dealt with this. Illinois is looking at some things that might create a state bank that would specifically enable medical businesses, or medical and recreational businesses, to have deposits. So, and it would be outside the federal framework. In terms of federal enforcement, however, most federal prosecutors in the various districts of the states that they operate in, where it is now legal, have decided that they're not going to be pursuing any federal criminal action. They're just kind of following the political lead of the state. These people are typically from those areas. They're not brought in from other areas. So for instance, we won't have someone from Montana being one of our federal prosecutors. It's typically be an Illinois homegrown prosecutor, and they're very sensitive to the political issues. So there's a certain reality there that takes place where it's a non-issue. Doesn't mean that they can't have it. If you have a president, an administration that is adamantly opposed to it and wants to do it, of course they can. Under federal law, it would result in a lot of legal issues. But in many respects, in some parts of the state already, it has been de facto legal because county, state's attorneys have not been enforcing, laws against the consumption of marijuana, unless it's like a super egregious case. So, and there are limits in the statute about how much you can possess at any one time. Apparently, according to the state law, I think it's 30 grams, which is the equivalent of 90 joints. So you can have up to 90 joints.
Yeah, I did my brief overview of it. They did put regulations in this statute that they typically don't. Like, they're regulating the hours of sales
Right.
in this statute where they
6
don't.
to 10.
Yeah, where they don't regulate it in the liquor, and so we regulate it. And so they're taking a little bit more of our role in it than.
my thing
Well,
with
we
that.
only take the dealers out of business.
No, my thing with the federal government wasn't with an individual, it was with the business.
Yeah.
You know, because the business is clearly gonna have more than 30 grams, you know, it wouldn't
Well-
be much. So they're gonna have a stockpile on, and it's not medical marijuana, which I thought may be exempt on that federal law. You have medical.
No, it's not. It's not.
Then I guess there shouldn't be an issue, because how long have we had medical marijuana now?
About 8 years.
I do have a question on the zoning, though. Is there a difference in zoning for the dispensary versus the growing site?
Yes.
Do we need to regulate both?
If you want to, well, keep in mind, actually, there is a cultivation facility in this area already because there's 22 of them across the state, and it's based on the state police districts. So wherever the state police district is, well, it's within this area. So there is a cultivation
It's in
center.
Rochelle.
Yeah, is it,
I thought it was in Dixon.
No, there's one in Rochelle.
Yeah.
so there's only one allowed per
So
state
we
police.
don't really
Yeah,
need to
you're
worry
not gonna
about
worry
that
about
type of
that.
zoning.
Exactly.
All right.
What is gonna be interesting is,
I don't know, just grows.
I know we represent Delavan down by Peoria, and they actually have the facility, the cultivation facility down there. It's currently 400,000 square feet. They're expanding to 1 million square feet. And the water draw from the city is a big issue for them, because these facilities, as you can imagine, use a lot of water. And a lot of electricity. But apparently, the owner of that particular facility wants to put a solar array on the roof. and generate all his own electricity, so.
I have one question following up on Chris's. Because it's still federally illegal, there is no liability to the village for,
No,
Mhm.
no.
Okay.
It would be more of an issue for the state if
Okay.
it'd become a federalism issue, and it would go to the Supreme Court.
okay, just want
So
to make
there's a
sure
lot
that
of-
we weren't entering into any.
No.
Okay.
But as was pointed out to me, I did talk to one of the chief sponsors today of the legislation, Representative Morgan from, his district's kind of the North Shore of, Chicago. He was saying, like, for instance, there is no dram shop insurance for these, for instance, whereas like liquor establishments have dram shop, there's nothing similar, and it's gonna be very hard for these facilities to get insurance. They're gonna have to be self-insured, probably through bonds that they'll have. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. But the trend is toward legalization across the country anyway, so.
Is it allowed to be sold in a place that's already selling liquor, like a bar?
You can place restrictions on that. You can conceivably allow it to happen, but if a bar came to you and wanted to kind of convert to a lounge, that could probably happen if
And still have
your
al-
regulations
and
allow
still
it.
have alcohol as well.
So that would be controlled at the local level.
Each their own.
Okay.
Each their own vice.
Yeah.
Anything further, David?
Not at this time.
Any other questions for the attorney? Hearing none, moving on to the committee reports. Community Development and Events Committee, Jen?
All I have to say is that we have, on July 3rd, we have our fireworks, and followed by our movie, which is A Dog's Way Home. And still working on a chalk event for hopefully either August or September.
All right. And we got all that publicized, I take it?
Mm-hmm.
I figured as much. Anything further?
Nope, that's all.
Moving on to myself and the Finance Committee. I'm not aware of any emergency expenditures.
We have none.
We have none. Moving on to Ordinance Enforcement,
Nothing at this time.
rolling. The Parks Committee.
I'll turn it over to Kenny. Kenny?
Yeah, last week we had kind of brought up the basketball nets at the court. Obviously you guys approved having the court resurfaced and everything. This is something John and I had talked about years back, and then Jen also, wanted to see this done, and then Jared kind of kicked the ball around, last week prior to the meeting about this. So I did get some quotes on nets. I did some homework with Byron on what they're using and how good their equipment's been holding up, so I didn't get it to Sandy fast enough for a resolution this week, but I do have a copy of a quote for all four basketball
You mean the
net-
resolution that's in the packet?
It's on there for
On
approval.
the agenda?
the one for the nets,
If
Back-
if
Who's
that's what,
it from?
if that's what this is right here.
the co-line one?
Replacement of basketball
Oh,
assemblies.
I thought you didn't put
Yeah.
it in there.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey.
Unless
got it,
unless you
but
got a
can't
different one.
No.
Thank you, Sandy.
Really?
You said you
Yeah.
weren't gonna put it
No,
in
you
there.
got it to me real quick, so
Okay.
I was able to
From
do it.
Co-Line Welding?
Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't it 8 grand?
So, yeah, originally they were, looking at about, $3,500 to $4,000 a pop, and I found this company, Byron's using them, they've had real good luck with them, they've held up really well. They came in, they gave a good municipal discount, so with freight, they'd be $84.74.96. For those, we'd obviously have to install them ourselves, and preferably before we do the resurfacing of the basketball court, but I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention and throw it in there.
I don't see the dollar amount on here.
It's on the attached exhibit.
Did you wanna make a resolution?
Is that all you have, Kenny?
That's not the exhibit.
Yeah, that's it.
That is attached.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
There you go.
Does anybody have any other questions for Kenny? Hearing no questions, I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 19-41, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of proposal from Co-Line Welding, Inc. for replacement of basketball assembly at Community Park in a total of $8,474.96. Second.
John made a motion to approve Resolution 19-41, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a proposal from Coldline Welding Incorporated for replacement of basketball assemblies at the community park. Jared seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, take roll call, clerk.
Gina is absent. Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes?
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Motion passes at 7:24. Anything else, John?
No, thank you, Kenny. Thank you, everyone.
Nice work, way to move quick. Moving on to streets and ditches, Chris?
Everybody have a chance to go over and look at 165 Autumnwood? Not that you needed to, I took some pictures of it.
I did.
And anybody have any comments?
When I drove by, what I observed from the east side of the house is that the backyard looks lower than the front, which would prevent it from draining out, and the part I'm referring to appears to be outside of the easement from the village.
Do you think that's caused by the berm that was installed in the backyard?
Berm in the backyard?
Yeah, there's a berm in the backyard. I don't know if I
I
showed
would
it.
say no.
I took a picture,
No.
I don't know if I gave it to you or not.
No.
There was,
This
there
appears-
there is a berm in the backyard with trees, across it, and, you know, the house that sits on two lots
Behind it.
is behind it,
Mhm.
yeah. You know, Dr. Flynn's old house, is behind it, and she put a berm in the back. But basically, what drains on our side doesn't look to be bad. I mean, yeah, I took a picture of the ditches after it had rained the night before, and there was really very little standing water in it at all. It didn't look like there was an issue, and I don't think the slope in her front yard is much of an issue. There is a discharge that comes from her, either
Oh,
sump
right
pump
there.
or, well, there's two. One of them,
You're
on
talking
one side of her
about-
house, there's one right before the ditch, and on the other side of the house, it's like in the middle of in the ditch, and that discharge is just has a little higher over it because they didn't compact it down when they buried the, but in reality,
Right there.
well, that's part of her problem too. That's her neighbors whose sump and, downspouts empty out.
That's the neighbor?
Yeah, right next to her backyard where she just put in a brand new porch behind her garage. So she might have some issues, but I don't see how the village can do much about that.
My ditch does the same thing.
Is this her yard here,
Yeah,
and then this is to the east?
yeah, I can't remember.
So what I saw when I drove by is, so this is obviously the ditch, right?
That is the ditch.
And here's just outside of our easement. This portion is higher, it appeared to be higher than the backyard.
The front of her yard?
The front of her yard appeared to be higher than the backyard. So that's obviously not gonna drain out if it's,
Does she have a draining thing in back there?
Yeah, well, I don't know, was she complaining about the backyard, or was she complaining about the front yard?
she complained the backyard froze as an ice rink in the winter.
Could be very well true.
Did
But that wouldn't be our fault.
It's
Did
not.
she bring in dirt for that berm, or did she take the dirt out of the backyard to make her berm?
I didn't see a berm when I went by.
Can you actually scroll back down? Chris pointed this out
I mean,
to
the
me.
original
Um,
contractor could have done it wrong
Right
and
there,
not put
you
enough
can
dirt.
actually see her one drainage tube, that black piece going along the bricks there.
Yeah, that's a drainage tube that goes right out to right near the gutter. That's on the, I don't know, the far side.
The west side?
The west side, and the other one was was the other side, and there's a pipe and 3/4 of the way down
Bless you.
that lets out there, but I don't see any issues with that.
Except for Cindy.
That's the berm of her backyard right there. I'd send it to you, but it'd take too long.
That's on the east side.
Can you actually text that to me real quick?
I'll try. You're asking a lot, this technology stuff.
When I drove by, I didn't
Glad
see
you're good with
anything,
numbers, Chris.
I didn't see anything that placed the village at fault for what her allegations were here last week,
No.
so. Unless there's something new, I just say we move on.
815.
I would agree.
Well, how old is that house?
20 years?
I was just wondering, like, if,
I've been here 16 years and that house was here when I got here.
well, I was just thinking if, obviously, she's not the original owner, but if, when you do your yards, if you just take the rough grade that's left of you and
Mm-hmm.
not,
Didn't add any soil,
Right,
it would be low.
right. so then it's not gonna,
You know, I personally didn't see, when I looked, I didn't see, and maybe in the wintertime when, you know, her neighbor's sump pump and downspouts are letting out right there next to it, she has water in there, but I don't see what we can do about that. It's a good, from her property, it's at least 5 or 6 feet, I mean,
This is,
yeah.
And we're not quite sure how bad the ice skating rink really could be,
Well,
considering the
it'll be
exaggeration.
concrete now, so there won't be any ice.
And that's the other thing,
there's
you got a lot of hard
no
surface.
concrete going in there.
There is concrete, there's
There's
concrete.
concrete behind her.
That right there's her neighbor's house and the fence,
a concrete patio.
right, there's a
Oh,
concrete.
concrete patio,
Yeah,
gotcha,
Sorry,
okay.
there's a concrete patio
Not
there.
up to the property line.
No, it's only to the garage. So whatever from the garage over to her property line and the property line over, right, it's probably at least 6 feet, maybe more.
Again.
I'm just saying, somebody with drainage problems, put in another hard surface, you take
Yeah,
away
take
more
like 25
stuff to absorb the water.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it contributes to the problem,
Yeah.
definitely.
Could,
No, it will, I guarantee it, because that runoff goes somewhere too then, right?
yes, go ahead.
There's no grass to absorb it, nothing to,
That's just like if everybody did a 3-car wide driveway, and it would've hurt things in time, because it wasn't designed to have all three.
Well, from what I saw and Chris saw and reported, does it change this board's opinion on anything? Otherwise,
No, I went by there, I didn't think it had any more water than anybody else, I mean,
you know, if
after that
she,
heavy rain, when I
if
called
she has
Frank,
a specific, you know, date that she thinks there's a problem, she wants to give me a call, I'll go take a look and take pictures and, you know,
okay.
let everybody know. I don't think that, you know, after we've had, 12 inches in 40 days, if you don't have a major problem now, I don't see it coming.
Right. So I appreciate the board members who went out and looked at it. It's definitely, it was definitely worth a look, so.
Did-
Anything else, Chris?
Fergie, did you wanna talk at all about the repairs at Pacific Street, or you wanna wait? All right, never mind.
Okay. Moving on to utilities. Do you have something?
Nope, just the item here,
So this is for the,
kinda like with Kenny here.
whatever this is called.
This is to
The-
remove the oxidation ditch cover at
Yes.
the wastewater treatment plant. A few weeks ago, he had asked me for these photos, and I did not put them in, so I went above and beyond and stuck them in the board packet this time, so you can see what it is they're removing. If you scroll down past that one, you'll see all that black tarp right there, essentially.
I would say that, this is ridiculous.
Yes, I agree.
Where's the tree?
I tried to focus on photos that showed the cover,
That's our cultivation
not
site.
the vegetation
There's
this
the
time.
tree.
There you go.
There it is.
It's right here.
we planted somewhere else.
So this is the wastewater treatment plant that processes the sewage that comes from the entire community, correct?
That is correct.
Very
And,
fertile.
That's very fertile, that's right.
and just for clarification,
It hides.
this growth is not supposed to be in there?
That is correct.
Okay, good. So the plan is to get it removed, the cover? Are we gonna remove it permanently? Or is this just a temporary removal to clean it out?
No, we were gonna go ahead and remove the cover and just take our chances with the weather.
I like the answer.
It's not gonna freeze if you have one of the bad freezes. It's like 12 feet deep. It gets that cold out in Minnesota and that ice fish, and the ice is only like,
Well,
4 feet
I mean, it will freeze, because it did before. That's why we got the cover.
It's moving,
but
you're
you'll
just gonna
still
get it.
have-
Yeah, underneath it will move,
yeah,
correct,
it'll
yes.
still move.
How much just to get it off?
Well, what you see here, basically the 7,500, I'm wanting to rent the crane basically for 3 days if needed. It'll be probably a couple of days to remove the cover. And then basically I wanna go ahead, the aerators that you see there, those round, deals in the front of the picture. I wanna go ahead while the crane is there, use that to open the aerator covers. Actually, there's one of the covers open there. Get in and pull all the vegetation that's built up on the aerators while the crane is there.
Absolutely.
So we might as well do it while it's sitting there. So I'm looking at 3 days.
I think we estimated the cost based on what you had at only 5,700, but
Yes.
Fergie and I decided that not to exceed of 7,500.
Except it
Says
says, in an amount to exceed
That's why I
It should say not to exceed. That's
Okay, I'm good with this though.
Okay.
75.
So when you just make sure when,
Not,
assuming you move forward on this, just make sure that,
Not.
Right.
you add the word not.
Please do.
So,
That's my,
That's my script right
Otherwise,
there.
don't complain when
Yeah.
Fergie comes back with $100,000 bill.
So just
Yeah.
for clarification, this is a, trial and error or a lesson learned by the village. Something we put on to protect, or what we thought was a good idea, ended up not being such a solid plan for the future.
Is vegetation growth, is that normal to have or not?
I'm assuming, yes, with the plant, you know, obviously as fertile as it is. But I can't really say because no one I know, I've never seen another cover like this installed. So I really don't have anything to go off of. And I did mention it when we were talking about this, a few weeks ago, just, I'll say it one more time so everyone is aware. I make no guarantees. Okay, I'm not saying we're taking this cover off and we will never, ever have an issue with ice. Obviously, I can't see the future, so I don't know what's gonna happen. But I know this is a maintenance nightmare, and once again, I deem this
With
a
that
serious
said-
safety hazard.
With that said, we can't operate the plant in its current function, the way it's currently established.
We struggle with the growth
So-
and the aerators,
It needs to be
yes.
cleaned. One way or another, the
It
cover has to come
absolutely
off
needs
to
to
be
be
cleaned, and
That is
if for
correct.
any reason the supervisor and the employees deem that we gotta put the cover back on, so be it. If not, we can operate without it. We did it for many years, but the way it sits currently, it is a problem, and it's inefficient, and it's operating below its functional capacity,
can't
correct?
you store the
That is
cover?
correct.
Can we store the cover?
We will basically try to stack it somewhere outside. We don't have any room.
No.
Right next to the press.
No, I'm just, right, yeah. Maybe you wanna cover the press with the cover.
Oh, there we go.
No, I just meant, you know, if you do find out that you have issues and you still have it and it hasn't been totally destroyed, you could always throw it back on.
Yes, you could reinstall it. I mean, it's a little more than throwing it back
Assuming
on,
it's-
but yes.
The integrity's still good.
Yes, we're gonna try to actually undo their straps, buckles, all that. We're gonna try to actually undo these things and not damage anything. But we don't know what 6 years in the sun and the cold has done to this material.
Just
We
clarification.
just don't know.
Clarification, this quote is only renting the crane and the rigging, as our employees doing the work to take it off?
We will be in the people basket.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a man basket for 100 years, but we'll call it people basket. Yes, we will be the ones actually,
Okay.
doing the work.
When are you looking at getting this done? Are you just wanting to get this passed and then schedule it within?
I will talk to Creative.
Okay.
Like I said, everybody's pretty much seen us out there. We're in the middle of crack filling now. We still have several weeks to go. We're busy. We're busy.
Okay.
So, but yes, I'd like to get it scheduled as soon as possible.
At this point, would anybody like to make a motion?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the hiring of Creative Crane and Rigging Incorporated to assist with the removal of the oxidation ditch cover and cleaning of aerators in an amount not to exceed $7,500.
Second.
Jen made a motion to approve hiring Creative Crane and Rigging Incorporated to assist with the removal of the oxidation ditch cover and cleaning of the aerators in an amount not to exceed $7,500. Jared seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, clerk take a roll call.
Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes,
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dean is absent.
motion passed at 7:37.
Thank you.
Anything else for utilities?
No, sir.
Anybody else got anything for Dina? Hearing none, anybody got anything on economic development?
Do you have anything on economic development?
Anything from the public? Hearing none. We have closed session on the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session, 2C11, litigation when an action against affecting or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
Second.
Jen made a motion to go into closed session 2C11. John seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, take roll call.
William?
Yes?
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dina is absent. Chris?
Yes.
Motion passed at 7:39.
Go. I'd like to make a motion to reconvene our open session.
Second.
Jen made a motion to reconvene the open session, seconded by John at 8:01. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. There is no, what's the word I'm thinking of?
No action items out of closed session.
No action on closed session. Anything further from the board? Anything further from the public?
Just a reminder, come see me about closed session minutes.
Come see her about closed session minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Jen made a motion to adjourn, seconded by Chris at 8:02. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are so adjourned at 8:02.